Hi, in this short video we're going to talk about some of the things you should look for in reading a systematic review and run through that process very briefly in the context of this paper on technology-delivered cognitive behavioural therapy for paediatric anxiety disorders. So this paper is a systematic review, so just very quickly for those of you who are not familiar with systematic reviews, what they do is attempt to assemble and combine all of the different studies that have been done on a question. So in this case, let's say we've got 4 studies comparing red versus green. What we do with a systematic review is we combine them all together into one data set, and that gives us an overall estimate of all of the findings. So you can see that this sort of approach could be very useful in resolving the situation where we've got different studies that have slightly different conclusions. You'd probably also think of some of the issues you'd need to bear in mind. One of the problems is, what if you don't find all of the studies? That can change the result. Or if the studies are looking at slightly different things, maybe it doesn't make sense to combine them in the first place. In this case, we've got a study which includes purple on the red side. So we always have to think about, does it make sense to combine all of these different studies into one pool of data? But systematic reviews are very important. They provide us with an unbiased overview of what's already known on a subject. It allows us to be more precise in our estimates of what the effects of treatments are. And it helps to reduce the waste that happens in research, because people can assemble all the stuff in one place and everybody's starting from the same place. And there's some pretty compelling evidence that not doing systematic reviews in the past has cost lives. So very quickly to explain that point, Ruth Gilbert and her colleagues did an analysis retrospectively of all the studies that had been done in quite a well-known case situation in the UK of putting babies down on their backs to sleep instead of on their front to prevent sudden infant death syndrome. And you can see from this diagram that a lot of studies were done going back to the 1960s, but people were still being advised to put their babies down to sleep on their front at that time. If we'd been doing a systematic review as we were going along of that evidence, it would have become clear much earlier than it did that putting babies to sleep on their back is better than and actually saves lives by preventing cot death. So that's quite a clear-cut and dramatic example. And a lot of the issues arise from some of the issues we find in research generally. Around half of published studies don't do enough to eliminate potential bias. Around half of studies don't even get published. And we know from examining those situations that negative trials are less likely to be published than positive ones. So studies that have an uninteresting result or find no benefit of a treatment are less likely to be published. We can imagine there could be all sorts of reasons for that. But it sort of underlines one of the issues in that bias in research generally tends to work in favour of intervention. So we tend to kind of find things that confirm what we want to do.